Hello. This one's about cable harnessing, making wiring neat, and some forgotten techniques. I mean, nowadays, most people who think of bundling cables together, first thing, automatic go-to, cable ties, which are fine. But they're definitely not the only way of doing it. The traditional way, before cable ties were introduced, is lacing cord. And there's quite a few variations, but this is one type. You actually see the label there. It's called lacing tape in this one, but it's lacing cord, it's a common name for it. This one's a braided one. It's a very, very fine braided tape or ribbon almost. There are many other varieties, makes and whatever. You just use string even. This is not actually my favourite version. My favourite one's one called lay flat. I haven't got anything to hand to demonstrate that at the moment, but basically that, rather than being woven, so it's a fixed flat tape, is a similar size, just bundle of waxed fibres. This is waxed as well, and the waxing is one of the fairly important things. But the lay flat one, because it's not braided or woven like this, it just pulls flat to the cables at any angle. The basic technique for using any kind of lacing cord is, I'll just cut a piece off. Normally you'd have a length that you can manage. I've got a metre or so. And it's a sequence of knots. So you start with a knot, just a basic half hitch over and under knot, or a reef knot, or whatever you want. Then just do a wrap round, and most importantly, take the free end through inside that loop. Just let it pull down to where it needs to be to get an appropriate length for the size of the bundle, and pull it tight. Just arrange it a bit if needed. And because the ends go underneath the loop, I'll actually get a good view of that. Sorry, I've got this piece of wire. It's just a collection of bits out of my scrap box. I've got the ends roughly anchored to bits of stuff on my bench. One end of it's the lighter music, so it's making the light move when I try and pull on it. But that's all the basic technique is. Just form wraps and knots at regular intervals, and it gives you a neat and tight bundle. Because the stuff's waxed, the knots don't slip too easily. They don't just fall out on their own. If you want to take branches out, say if I wanted to take these, then just carry on the branch or the main run, and then restart with another piece on the other half. So I'll tighten that one up there. Or you can add an extra piece in and kind of tie that in under the existing end if you wish. Again, there's nothing absolutely critical except trying to keep the ends under the loops, or the passes under the loops, so they don't come loose on their own. So each loop is a knot in itself rather than just a twist. I can use that one. Oops. Didn't anchor that very well. Anyway, doesn't matter. Just do a loop round a knot somehow. Typical. Mess it up on video. Just add another loop round there, and then tie the end back in that way with the next passes. that's got its own line coming out of it. Sorry if your finger's in the way, it's a bit difficult to do it without working on top. But you see, it's just the same technique there, and that one carries on that way. I'll say material-wise, this stuff is not that readily available. I don't know if it's any available for any amateur suppliers. It's only some trade suppliers. But there are lots of other ways you can do it. Plain string. This is just plain white string, a ball string. It's the thin, smooth cotton stuff, not the rough twine type stuff with bits sticking out everywhere. But just a bit of this. And exactly the same technique. Tie a knot. Now, what I've done with this, the loose end, I've rubbed that with a candle, just to put a bit of wax on it, because the wax will hold it in place. It stops it slipping. It doesn't have to be, it's just easier because the knots don't slip too easily. Same technique, just take it around. It's a bit long really for what I'm doing here, just for a demo. Okay, for bigger bundles. Same technique, take it around under and pull it so you get a symmetrical underpass. Not over the light, I'm not even see that any clearer at that one. See if I can zoom in a bit. See, this gives you a better view of the knot style. It's just a looped under. Get rid of this stray end. Yeah, the wrong way is if you pass it that way. In fact, I can't even figure out how to do it wrong now. Is it that way? That's it. That's the wrong way. So it's crossed like that. There's nothing to hold it at all to keep it tight. It just falls apart on its own. Whereas doing it with a pass under or through the next turn produces a proper knot that will grip on itself. Now, as I was saying, the lay flat style looks, well, it's just a bundle of wax strands. I was thinking for a hobbyist version, it looks just like giant dental floss. I thought, I wonder how dental floss works. Zoom out to get a bit again. So I've got a couple of packets of the cheapest dental floss I could find online, which is somewhere around £1 or £2 per 100 metres. In whatever size packs, 50, 100 metre packs. And it's a bit thinner, but for small stuff, it's about half the size, probably, or a third the size of the proper stuff, the official lacing cord. But for small jobs, fine wiring, I think this should work just as well. Just obviously, it doesn't want to be on big wires and too tight where it's cut in, but the stuff is very strong. Need a knot in it. Again, it's just a plain waxed one. It's a little bit tricky to work because it's so light it's sticking in my fingers. But technique-wise and effect-wise, it will do the job quite neatly. See that? That's lacing with dental floss. There are plenty of other ways, as I mentioned, and not just only lacing. You can, on outdoor bundles especially, like going up for aerial cables, attaching them to metal poles and things like that, you can't beat tape. It spreads the load, which is very good with coaxial cable. It shouldn't be crushed. So it's just somewhere between 3 and 5 turns of a good quality PVC tape, and try and cut it with a scissors or something rather than tearing it so it leaves a rough end. So when you wrap it, that the end will smooth down and stay attached properly rather than leaving bits that'll get weathered. So found the bit that's not got anything on it yet. And this is a bit too short for this bundle. It's just purely to demonstrate the end. And my fingers have got wax on from the cord, so it's not going to stick very well. But if the end's cut, it will lay perfectly flat and be weatherproof. If you stretch it or tear it, like some people do, like that, it will not lay down very well, and it will get weather under it and it may come loose. It's not too obvious there, but the end is quite ragged. In fact, I just had to push it back on a reflex then. So the end was starting to peel up where it's torn, sprung, stretched, and push it back down. Another thing for things that need to be weatherproof, like electrical connectors that need to be corrosion resistant long term, like if you're joining coaxial cables, again, aerial cables, something like that, is self-amalgamating tape. There's various makes and styles of this. This is one from just a retailer, just general supplies retailer type place. You can get it from all electrical suppliers and places like RS, Farnell's, Newark, you name it. And basically, the difference between this and normal insulating tape is this is not an adhesive in the normal sense. It's basically a strip of special rubber that doesn't stick in itself to anything, but it's something like the best description I think of is, just tilt the camera a bit. The best description I think of is half set contact adhesive. It's very, very stretchy. So when you wrap it on something and stretch it as you put it on, it conforms to whatever shape it is very, very well. You can go over complex shapes or things that change size drastically. You can wrap it tight so it's overlapping itself. And as I say, if you're putting it on something like a connector, you can actually wrap up the body of the connector even though it's much bigger. And the one thing it does stick to is itself. And within hours or possibly days, it joins completely into a single piece. You know, after a fairly short time, you can cut that apart, and you can't find any separate layers or anything. It's just one solid block of rubber, which means it's very, very good for waterproofing because there are no joints. The one problem it does have is it's not good against ultraviolet sunlight. So if you use it outdoors, just put a protective layer of normal PVC tape over it to keep it from light, stop it degrading. But if you do that, it'll last for decades. I took an aerial cable down that had been used for about 20 years not long ago, and I'd done the connectors with this. I actually sliced one down lengthways with a knife and peeled the shell off, and it was as if it had been injection molded around it. You could see all the details of the plug, the knurling and everything, and it was still absolutely immaculate and tight sealed to the metal and to the cable after decades in outdoor weather in England, which takes some doing. Anyway, just to add a quick bit showing an example of practical use, and then that's it, and thanks for watching.